Welcome back to the Elle-Sera podcast. And today I've got a very special guest. I'm going to read an intro, which I never normally do, but I just want to get the correct points in. So you're the founder and CEO of some major hospitality venues in the UK. You've turned over 130 million pounds, not dollars, pounds in the last 8 years. You employ over 600 people in the UK. You're one of the UK's 42 under 42 best entrepreneurs. You're a guy who's never been on LinkedIn or written a post. You've never done an interview like this before. You're a son, father of 3, brother, and my other half. It is Danny Bolger.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on the pod, finally. You are my most requested guest.
Well, it beats doing it in bed, doesn't it?
Exactly. Okay, so obviously I've read all that and there's some great highlights of which we're going to go into later on. But give me the context that I would have to understand about you and your childhood years to make sense of the person that you are today.
Wow. Okay, where do I start with that? Well, so pretty much school was a write-off for me, really. Not a write-off. I wasn't troublesome or anything like that. I was a good enough pupil, but I just didn't ever seem to connect with school and what school was about. So for 15 years of my life, I reckon, well, a good solid 12 years, I was pretty much a failure or deemed a failure. I wasn't told directly that I was a failure as such, but when you get that feeling, report card after report card after report card, that you're just not really getting it right. So yeah, that was pretty much the start of my life, and it wasn't until I left school where I started to realise, I have got potential. But yeah, it was a rocky road. I just really didn't connect with school at all, so I struggled.
And what was your relationship with money like growing up?
Well, so we come from a separated parenthood. So I did have my dad on one side, and I lived with my mum for most of the time. My dad was probably the successful one out of my 2 parents in terms of financially. He sent me to private school, which I'm very, very thankful of. But I lived with my mum predominantly throughout my whole childhood, and she probably struggled a lot more than say he did. So I had two different worlds growing up. When I go and stay with my dad, I'd live in a life of opulence, or more so than what I was used to living at home with my mum. And then when I was living with my mum, there was loads of love, but we struggled our whole entire lives, really. So it was difficult. I had to knock around with friends. I made a load of friends whose parents were well off because of the school I went to, etc. And I had to sort of go through life with this fake, this fake outlook, and this persona that I come from a certain background and I come from a certain wealth in family, but I didn't. Effectively, I lived at home with a struggling single parent, so money was always scarce around my whole entire life. So, and when I say scarce, I lived a life where, bailiffs were knocking at the door I knew what to say. I was trained in what to say to bailiffs.
And how old were you at this point?
This started from my earliest memories, really. So this all led into me wanting more. But it's hard to say this because I wasn't, by no means am I sitting here saying that I was, I had a bad life. I didn't. I was loved by my mother. I was loved by me father, but I just lived 2 different lives. So it was always money was always something that caused the problems in my life, and it was always that thing that I seen a lot of. But I never had it in my life, and all the problems I seen was a cause. Had stemmed from not having any money.
Do you think do you think that gave you kind of different kind of grit and resilience.
Well, yeah, 100%. I mean, well, I think the grit and resilience I've gained throughout my life has come from, like I said, the first 15 years or 12 years of my life in school, always getting told, no, you're not quite hit the mark, you're bottom of the class again. And I wasn't stupid, I just didn't get to grips with school. And I got left alone by the teachers because they could see that I was bright, I wasn't struggling. I just wasn't into it. So with that, so getting told you're a failure for the majority of your life, that builds resilience. That almost has made me just hungry for trying more, attempting more, risking more, because, you know, a lot of people are scared of that failure. Well, by the time I was 16, I was completely and utterly hardened to it. So failure was not a problem for me. And then growing up in my mother's household, you know, she did nothing wrong. My mum, by the way, in this, she just, you know, she was a single parent and struggled with money her whole life, and she gave us everything she possibly could. But, you know, in doing that, you know, you were getting knocks on the door off certain debt collectors, bailiffs, etc. We had to move house every 6 months throughout my childhood. You know, the bills would clock up in the house, and then it'd be like, come on, pack your bags, we're off again. And then we'd be into another house. And that was pretty much my whole entire life. So yeah, does that build grit and resilience? 100%. You know, not many people deal with anything like that at all in their lives. And then, you know, some will obviously hit hard times and deal with it, but it won't be until an adult life. I was dealing with this right through my childhood. So yeah, I reckon that was a fantastic education.
100%. And it's a great motivator. In fact, I heard a quote this morning that said, by Scott Galloway. He said, if I had what my kids have today, I wouldn't have what I have now.
100%.
And the youth of today don't have that kind of opportunity for grit and resilience. Everything's so easy for them.
Well, as you know, obviously it's weird talking to you like this, but no, as you know how I treat our kids, and, you know, especially with the boys now growing up. Toby's coming into, you know, he's age 10 now. He's never going to have the same life I had, but I'm trying to still give him the same skills that I learned along the way. So I think, yeah, I definitely think it's all down to parenting, isn't it? I mean, if you're a lot better off and you give your kids everything they want, and you just sort of let them coast through life without a care in the world and not understanding what the value of things are, you're gonna. I don't know. Hopefully not.
Again, to quote Scott Galloway, he said, "If that was me, and I had what my kids have, I would have a Range Rover and a cocaine habit."
Yeah.
So I think that's the danger, isn't it? So if you give them everything that they want, it's actually, you're doing them a massive favor by really relinquishing that, making them work for it. If you want that money, you're going to have to earn it. Go and do some jobs around the house. Go and do this. Go and do that. That builds resilience, builds grit, builds self-esteem and confidence.
Well, so again, okay. So another way of looking at it is I can't treat our kids the same way I got treated. And that was my education to get to where I got to. But what I can do is teach them the value of things. So for instance, I've taught Toby all about investing from very early, haven't I? You know, I teach, he says, Dad, can I have some money to put on Roblox, and can I have some money to put on Minecraft? And I go, no, well, look, right, I'm going to tell you, if you put this money into Minecraft, into Roblox, you're going to, and I'll show him the stock market, and you're going to lift the price of that business. Everyone who does that, everyone who buys into Roblox, everyone that spends all this silly money online, that's lifting the price of the stock. If you want to spend money on Roblox because you like it and you're into it, go and invest in the stock. And then tell all your mates to go and buy the Robux because they enjoy it. So I teach him where the money goes. You know, there's wasted money and then there's invested money. You know, and you can waste money in stuff that you like, and you can invest money in stuff that you like. So I'm teaching him a different type of skill set that I wasn't taught. I had to learn this myself. But so there is values you can still teach into kids. I do believe, and that's definitely one of my focuses with our kids, is to make sure that they're not going to have the hardships. They're not, but that doesn't mean that they can't still get the education at the same time.
Poor little Grace. She's got no idea what's ahead of her. Voluntarily, I'm going to throw her into
I think you're a bit harsh.
I'm harsh.
I think you are.
I probably am.
You'd give her a cardboard box for her birthday.
I would. And she'd love it. She'll have more. She'll run rings around people by the time she's 18, believe me. Okay. So obviously you touched on before that you weren't academic in school. You didn't really like it. You know, it was just not for you. You learn in a completely different way. If people are listening to this and their kids are not academic, what advice would you give them?
First, understand, are they just taking the piss? Have they got ability, and are they just taking the piss and being lazy? Understand that. I think every parent gets to grips with that pretty quickly. I mean, there's no point giving a kid a hard time because they're not doing it in school and they can't do it. School is, I genuinely think the school system is broken for probably, and this gap is growing bigger for, you know, probably 50% of people's out there. If I didn't have the background and the upbringing I had, I would have been just put on the pile. I would have, you know, you're not destined for anything. You didn't pass school. You didn't, you know, follow the correct ways of the syllabus, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I would have just been casted off. But it was only for the fact that I was lucky enough to be around people that educated me. And I was lucky enough to want to learn about the people who were successful around me. But, yeah, think about how many people has got probably the same ability I have in school, but haven't had that upbringing where they could see that there is a future for them. We
should say the people that you had around you are all very entrepreneurial. They own their own businesses.
Yeah.
Which is like, so it was
an education in itself.
Exactly.
But yeah,
and their parents owned businesses.
So yeah, so you see, so going back to what would you say to your kids? It would be, you know, I think, get school out of the way. You know, school is not the be all and end all. Education isn't the be all. Education is the be all and end all, but it doesn't have to be in a school format. You know, you can get an education off many. Like my education, true education, was off my family and my family's friends and people around me that I grew up with. That was where my real education came in. So what I would say to them is, look, if your kids aren't cut out for education, just scrap this university, because even if your kids aren't cut out for education, you can still be duped into going to university, right? They'll take your money all day long. As far as I'm concerned, for that category of people, I feel like it's the biggest Ponzi scheme on planet Earth, because, you know, they go through their lives being in a scheduled way of life, going to school, waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning, getting dressed, getting washed, brushing their teeth, going to school, making sure they're in the class for the first class for 9 o'clock, and going through this structured day. This is school's great in that sense, you know, training you ready for later life. It's fantastic. But then some of these kids leave school and then just go into this free, independent way of living. Half of the time they're gaming, they're getting into loads of debt, they're not getting up at 9 o'clock, they're going out on the piss, and you know, it's almost like they're going backwards.
That was me, by the way, at 18. Yeah. That was 100% me.
Some people need it, but what I'm saying is, you know, it's identifying what, you know, if your kid's not educationally equipped for the school system, then find someone good that you can trust your children with. An apprenticeship scheme. I was an apprentice joiner. And I did that because my dad turned around, because I didn't go to college, and I turned around to my dad and I went, "Come on, Dad, I'm coming to work with you." And he was like, "Well, what use are you to me?" He said, "I'm not, you know, what skills have you got?" He said, "I suggest," because he was in property at the time, he said, "I suggest you go and get a building skill, do something." And I was like, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. But it was the biggest thing that he ever did for me, that, because what he did, he could have just said, "Yeah, come on, son, come to work with me, sit in the car and watch me do stuff." I probably would have done all right that way as well. But what he did is he went, "No, you get on your own 2 feet. If you don't want to go and do college, then go and do something. And I suggest you go and learn the building industry, because with that, you can do anything." And that is it. There's a few fundamental careers that you can go into that you can build anything out of. It will teach you business. It'll teach you people. It'll teach you work ethic. And then when you put them all together, you can either just have a really nice life, or you can build on that and go further and further. And that's exactly what I did.
We should talk about some of your early jobs as well. So you've had a lot of, obviously you're in hospitality and leisure now, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but you've kind of had every job in the restaurant industry. And again, a bit like the building trade, hospitality is where it's a baptism of fire, and you get a lot of, there's a lot of young waiters and waitresses. But my God, that's like life skills, how to deal with people, how to approach people, how to open a conversation, how to deal with a stressful situation or a complaining customer. It's a great training ground.
Well, so I think, first of all, so for me, the way I've grown business is I am a fantastic starter of anything. I am. I'll give any, and I'm the risk taker. I am, and because failure doesn't bother me, I don't care. So I didn't realize. I thought everyone could do this, but not everyone can do this, or they can do, but they don't want to. Of course, everyone can go and start a business, but the actual fear of doing it and getting over that hurdle, and either making it a success or it becoming a failure, people struggle with that. So that's what I'm really good at. I will have a go at anything. So that has come from that whole entire thing has come from me starting at the bottom and going through every single level. And when I started in the restaurant as a pot wash, or was it a bar back? A bar back is someone who stacks the bottles in the bar, restacks the glasses on the bar, washes the glasses, etc. And then you get a pot wash who will obviously just clean all the plates and clean all the pans, etc., etc. But that's the first level in any restaurant or hospitality industry. Now, I think anyone that I've ever met in my time in business or even in work in the restaurants, etc., anyone who's ever got to a certain level has been at that level. They've seen every single level along the way, because it's your first sign of it, it's your first chance of promotion as well. So you can go right in at the bottom. It's very easy to be promoted. Well, when you get into that frame of, wow, I'm better than I was last year, then, or I've succeeded in what I was doing to the point where I've been promoted, it's like, it's a sense of, it's a massive, overwhelming, like, feeling of success. Whether it might just be going from a pot wash to a prep chef, do you know what I mean? Or a bar back to a bartender, or a bar back to a busser of a table out in the restaurants. It's just a level up, because you've shown that you're capable, you've shown that you can do the job, and then you've been entrusted for a promotion. Albeit it's only a little step, but a promotion's a promotion. And it just gives you this sense of, sense of success that just can drive you right on. And once you do that, you want bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you promote your way up. In saying that, though, there's a place where you need to know where your ceiling is, because over promotion's a thing, and then ultimately you'll have to go back, and going back is hard. Make sure that you're ready for the next step. A lot of businesses can over promote people when they're not ready, because they need that person in position. Understanding how that works and how it works for you is crucial.
I think as well, people don't see waitressing as a career, and actually you're somebody who's done that job and now employs 600 people. And I think there needs to be a bit more that, if you actually do want to take this seriously, that you could have a phenomenal career in this.
So I've got a perfect, I think I understand how this has all happened. It used to be a career, of course it did. It being a waitress or working as a career in the restaurant or hospitality industry was a career once upon a time, especially up north of England. Just like being a joiner or being a plumber or being an electrician, it's an entry into that world. It's like the first entry level into a working life, and they treated it like a career. But what happened with that is that I do believe it was the rise in higher education and this university, the expansion of the university, which took them people from school who would normally choose an apprenticeship, who would normally choose going into a trade or going into the restaurant or going into any type of hospitality, hotels, restaurants, whatever it may be. They then started going into higher education, funded by the government, to go and get pissed once a week or twice a week or whatever, go to 4 lectures a week and, pretend that you're doing okay in life. Well, these were the people that were going into them roles. So ultimately now what they do is go into higher education. Oh, now, I'm in university, I'm doing the right thing, I'm going, at first, 10 years ago, it wasn't as thought, people did think they were doing the right thing going to university.
I mean, even like if you look like 40 years ago, or like when my dad went to university, he got
vocation.
Yeah, he got a
them.
scholarship, so he didn't have enough money to go to university. But then, did that pay off? Yeah, because he's had a great career since. And back then, if you had a university degree, you would get a job which was conducive to that. So you would probably get a higher paid job. And now loads of people have got.
That was the hook.
Yeah.
That was the hook in university,
it's not the same
getting
anymore.
everyone into university. But when you look at it and you reverse it and you look at, well, why was that done? There's just massive amounts of money behind the whole process. But what you're doing is you're taking a massive layer of people that are more suited to the workplace straight out of school out of the system. And then when they go into university, they still need a job because they can't get through on the money. So then they go back into the work, the building game, labouring, or they go back into the restaurants. But now they're in university. University's their career path. Restaurants just picking up money. So then we get a load of part-time workers that are just picking up money, which is fine. It's absolutely fine, but you can't build on someone's career in a restaurant when they're only there to pick up money. So I think it's changing, especially, look, with every business, especially in hospitality, it's all about the leadership and the business behind the actual brand itself that gives the opportunity to people and whether they want to choose you as a career. It's not always deemed, it's not like we can have a cafe down the road and say, come work for me, I'll make you fantastic. Do you know what I mean?
There's got to be businesses that are growing.
There's got to be a level of system behind the business which can progress people into a more career role.
Yeah. So we're going to get on to Ghetto Golf, now called Golf Fang. But before I do that, I think everybody thinks you're a bit of an overnight success, Danny, that you just like built this adults crazy golf and it just went so well from day one and that was your life. But I know we laugh about it, but we've sat there and gone through your Facebook account and seen how many tried and failed businesses you've actually had. So can you just give us list a couple for me? So
let's go right. I'll go right back. So you talk about, it wasn't an overnight success. I got trained by my granddad in how to deal with money. So we would go to car boot sales from as early as I could remember, and my granddad would, I don't know if it was £2 or whatever it was, £5. I can't remember how much he'd give us back then, but he would go, look, so the idea of this is, I've been a car dealer, your dad's been a car dealer in the past, this is exactly the same basis. You go and find something you like, see if you think that thing's got more value, say, to the outside world after it's been cleaned up, etc., buy that. You need to make sure that you can build your time into it, cleaning it up and doing whatever restorations you need to do. And this could be anything. I'll go on to it. Onto what I did. And then you need to get it for the right price. But whatever that guy says he's selling it for, you cannot pay that for it. That guy is saying that price because he has got a lower price, and you need to find out what that price is. So he taught me how to deal with money, and I'd go around. So at the time, as a young kid, I think I was probably 7, 8, 9-ish around this time. This is when this flourished. This was my first business, and I was young. It was a laugh and a joke at the time, but it wasn't. I was into it, and I did have a bit of passion for it, and it could have developed. I was into tropical fish. Well, I had goldfish I won at a fair. I had a goldfish that I won at the fair, and I loved this goldfish, and I wanted tropical fish. But my mum said, well, we can't get you a tank and all the rest of it. Like a tropical fish tank back then would have cost about, probably the equivalent of £500 to set it all up as today. So anyway, I remember going to the car boot sale for the first time and seeing this fish tank, and it had algae all up the sides and everything, and it had like a heater and all the bits you needed. I was like, so I said to the fella, and this fella could see the excitement in my eyes because he knew that I wanted it. And I think he probably turned around and he said, give us £10 for it or whatever. And I was like, well, I didn't have £10. I only had a £5 or whatever. I'm just saying numbers. I don't know what the value were. So I bought it and I got it for the money. And my granddad was like, that's really good. He said, but what are you going to do with that? Anyway, I cleaned it all up, got everything minted up, and then I put my first fish in that, and then I had a tropical fish tank. So then the next week, I seen another one, and then I bought that, cleaned it all up, and then I put it on the ad pages in this. It was called the Southport Visitor back then, but everyone had one. The Echo had one, or every town had a little listing ad page. It was the early Facebook book marketplace, and then I'd started selling aquarium bits online. So that was my first bit, the first bit of business I did, and I was really young when I was doing that. But then, when I left school, I went into building. So I got my building apprenticeship, which was in joinery. I fast tracked that myself. I didn't complete that, but because I could do it. I could do the job, and I had such a bad time with school and all the rest of it that I wasn't hanging around for someone to tell me you're good at something again. I knew I was good at this, and a lot of people told me I was good at it. So I was like, well, I'm ready to go. And again, that was another thing as well. I'm taking a risk, and I'm just going to go out. So I think I did a joinery apprenticeship for about 2.5 to 3 years. But I hadn't completed my apprenticeship as far as the government was concerned. So I probably couldn't go and work on sites, but I never was going to. So started, and then pretty much I went and started up in my own business, just doing building and joinery. And I remember the first job I ever had was working for my dad, building a restaurant for him in St. Helens. And he said, I'm having a nightmare with these joiners. They can't get this floor to fit. And it's like a solid wooden floor. And I think I must have been 20. No, I was earlier than that, probably 19. And I went, I can do that. That's no problem. He went, all right. Well, he said, it's a big floor. It's like, 1,000 square meters. Or it wasn't quite that big, but it was a big floor. And they couldn't do it. They just couldn't get their head around it. Anyway, I went in and I just did it. My dad was like, wow, I'm going to sack all these joiners. Do you want to run the job? So that was my first job out of an apprenticeship. And that was like the intensity of what I brought to myself. So that was probably my first business. And then, the building game back then, I think we were hitting it like a mini recession or whatever. It just dips. The first thing to hit it is the building game. It just dips. So then I was out and about looking for more stuff. And then again, going back to the car boot thing, I thought, I need stuff and I'll start doing car boot sales on a Saturday and a Sunday. So I made this flyer saying, the rag and bone man and van, your junk and clutter is my bread and butter. And I got my little sister to go and leaflet them after school every day. And she'd go and put them in through all the thing. And then the phone would start ringing and people would say, yeah, I've got a garage full of stuff. I want to clear it out. Will you come and have a look? But I'd only tell her to go and put them in all the top houses, you know what I mean? So I knew that the stuff that was coming out was going to be good gear. And we know ourselves when we want to get rid of something, you just give it away, don't you? Because you just want to clear the place out. So anyway, I was onto that from an early age. And so the phone started ringing. I'd go around in the van, start going around looking at people's houses and looking at what they've got. And then I'd literally be like, there'd be a load of shit and there'd be some real good stuff. And I'd be like, well, I'll take that, mate, but I'm not a skip. Do you know what I mean? And then they'd be like, oh, right. So then I'd end up with the real good stuff, but just leave the crap stuff. So it wasn't ending up, just a mobile skip van. And then I'll go and sell it on the car boot sale on a Saturday and a Sunday. And I was doing like £1,000 a weekend just in that, but I was still doing me building on the side. So that was another little business. These are the little things that people over the years have gone, oh, what are you up to now? You're just another harebrained idea and this, that, and the other. But I was just at it and always trying to have a go and just loved it. Just loved having the deal and getting money again. Money haunted me through my life. It did. It haunted me. I'd seen wealth and never had it. And it just was that thing that was just always bugbeared me. So I just wanted to make sure that I was always in front trying to get it. And these are the little things. And then I went on, I did a garage conversion company with a friend of mine, that was working. But I think my partners in that at the time just wanted to keep it nice, small and easy to operate in the local area, which is it's a lifestyle business that.
Yeah.
But I had like grand plans to go big with it and go nationwide and franchise it out and stuff like that. But so that fell to sleep a little bit. And then that was deemed as probably a failure. So then that would give people more reason to say,
what are you doing now?
What you up to? You're just, another harebrained idea. And then I went into a Secure My Door, which was changing locks in UPVC doors all around the country.
Then you did some window company.
Yeah, I did a window replacement. Yeah, I've just done.
And then I think your first jaunt into restaurants stroke bars was a bar in Southport.
Yeah, well, I caretaked it. So basically, my dad's pal, he had a bar in Southport, and that was the first time that I really operated my own bar. But that was a failure as well. So that because my mindset at that time in life, I thought, yeah, I've got a bar, I'm Johnny Big Balls, you know what I mean? And I probably just I mistreated it, and I didn't. It could have been a success, and it was a success, but I didn't keep the balance, the books right, and this, that, and the other, and it failed because at that through that time in my life, I was money. I just want money, whatever it is to get money. That's what I want to do, and that was the wrong mindset to have, and that's why I think everything fell by the wayside, and I didn't make a success of it.
Apologies for interrupting this podcast, but I need to ask a favour. If you're enjoying this podcast so far, then please hit that subscribe button right now. I'll be straight up and honest that I want to see this podcast grow and flourish into something that I'm really proud of. And the only way that I can do that is with your help. So if you've ever learned anything useful from these conversations, then please return the favour by liking, rating, subscribing, and maybe even sharing it with your friends. Thanks very much. Let's get back to the episode. All right, so let's get to Ghetto Golf and how that started, now rebranded and called Golf Fang. But okay, tell me where you are at this point in your life. You're what, 30 years old now?
30. So I had my first child, Toby.
That must have been a different kind of pressure. Because at this point you had nothing, like a fiver in your pocket.
I had nothing, renting houses, had nothing.
No car.
I probably had a car, but it probably had no a red door on it, a blue car with a red door on it. I was living that type of life, and then I'll probably sell that if I needed money or whatever. I was living, week by week, most definitely. And then Toby came along. I probably went a little bit worse, drinking, and frustration crowded me a lot throughout my life. Massive frustration, because I know what my ability is and I know I can do it, and almost like, why have I not had the help, and why has no one come and given me a touch? And it was always just like pissed off with the world at this point. This is like in me getting late 20s into my 30s. I'd fucked about. I really had. There's no way I could have been a success by the way I was acting, but that was just led into massive frustration. I was just like kicking myself every day. Everything's negative, blaming the world. Everyone's getting the blame, but I'm not taking it. I'm sound and this, that, and the other. And then Toby came along, and then I probably went a little bit worse, that Robin Hood effect, or the Peter Pan effect, that's what they call it, isn't it? Just the boy that doesn't want to grow up. And then I definitely hit rock bottom at that point. I really hit rock bottom. I reckon that was the part of my life where it was like this, at this point, it can go one or two ways here. And it's your choice. You've got to make this. It's Danny. No one's coming to make this decision for you. It's either you can be the person you can be, and you've shown yourself in the past, or you can fucking just end up pissing everyone off in your family to the point where, they're going to disown you, or you're just going to end up on the streets or something. It was as bad as that. I was on the last legs. I'd broken a few bridges, and I'd messed a few people up that loved me at that moment in time. And I made the right decision. I did. I stopped drinking. Drinking wasn't a problem. I wasn't an alcoholic, but drinking was the thing that, I could never progress, because I'd always end up just going out on a bender or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of people can relate to this. Not a lot of people, but I know people who can relate to this. And it was just stopping me from progressing. And I made the decision. I went, do you know what? I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to change my life. And I did from that day on. It wasn't even like a hard thing. A switch went off in my head, and I just went, I'm not going to drink here. I just need to go, and it's me. It's my fault all this has happened. And it's the first time I started being truthful with myself. And And I did. I stopped from that day, and from that moment on, from that very moment, I'd spent, so probably from my 20s to my from 20-year-old to 30-year-old, that 10 years of life, I really went on a downwards hill then, because at 20 years of age, I'd realised that this is fucking hard, this, and all of that real positive driven stuff just sort of faded away. And then I went down that wrong path and that down slope to 30. And then I made that choice at 30, probably 31 I was when I made the choice to stop drinking. And then from that, I had a 10-year downwards slope. From the day I said, I'm going to stop drinking, my life never turned back. Never turned back. Every single day I progressed. And I just went to it. You know, it was that test thing. I started slow. And then I realized, fucking hell, I'm like, Jesus Christ here. I'm walking on water. I'm like, I need to speed this up. And I did, and ramped it up. And that's when me and my business partner, Kip, and best friend, we grown up together, that we decided to go into business together, and we started Ghetto Golf. But at that time, he was in the same frame of mind I was. It was just an absolute, it was like magic in a bottle. Me and him getting together, both in the same mindset, and at the crest of a wave in the experiential socialization market. And we built Ghetto Golf, and it just blew up.
So talk to me about how you got the idea for Ghetto Golf.
So I stopped drinking, and then I started doing jobs, but I was doing more jobs. Like, I was back doing the joinery then, because that's always been the thing that I'd go back to. Whenever anything failed, I could just pick my tools back up and go and be a joiner and earn myself 600, 700 quid a week back then, whatever it was. So it's like, I've got to be thankful to my dad. He made that happen in me. You know, that he gave me that fail safe thing. He led me into it. So I went in. I went. Oh, sorry. Just come back from the Lake District. I had a restaurant in the lakes, as it happens, and that failed. But it didn't fail. It's just, it wasn't what I wanted to do, and then it got flooded. So we when the insurance money came out, we just got out. I moved back from the lakes, and then I'm walking through Ormskirk, and Kip had a bar at the time, Lime Tiger, and he was doing it. He was changing sites to the other side of town, and he was showing me the plans, this, that, and the other. And he had a budget like 50 grand, and he wasn't going to get it done for the plans that he had. You know, the bill was coming in at 20 grand for the electrics. You know, just the same old thing. You know, you've got an idea, you've got a dream, but you haven't got the money, and you know, you're going to blow out the water. I'm quite good at that, like getting things in on value and getting it in on price. So I did this bar with Kip. And, you know, it's a great success, still is today, still open. But what that gave me is this thing that I can work with him. I can work with him. He's fantastic at what he does. And he is one of the best people I've ever met, ever, at doing what he does. There's not two of him. So I was like, this is what you need in business. You need, if you're going to bring a wingman in, you need it to be the right person. And, you know, he just showed me that, like, when I had a bad day, he's got it. When he has a bad day, I've got it. It was a perfect synergy. Anyway, I said to him, let's go and do something, but I want to do something like Lime Tiger, but I don't want to be in a town. I'm sick of towns. You know, you can never get out the bracket of bullshit in terms of revenue. You're always in that shit end of the revenue that, you know, always you're struggling with pay. You know, you need to overstep that, and to overstep that, you need to be in the cities, you need to go bigger. But we didn't know what it was going to be. So we had this thing in mind, let's make a bar, but an experiential bar. There's loads in London now, there is, but 10 years ago or 8 years ago, 9 years ago, would have been 9 years ago when we were thinking about this, this wasn't a thing. He was big into cocktails as well at the time. So we wanted to make this experiential bar that's changed seasonality. And I always had this thing in my head, like a Downton Abbey. So, it would be a Downton Abbey bar. All of the team in the venue would be all actors and actresses, and they'd be dressed up in like Downton Abbey outfits, and then the customers would become the audience, and they'd be interacting. It was a fantastic thing, but we weren't convinced. We weren't convinced on it, and because we weren't convinced on it, there wasn't true conviction in trying to find a venue. But nevertheless, we would go to city looking for the venues. In between each venue viewing, say we could go to one at 10 o'clock. The next one could be 3 o'clock, and we'd be in Leeds. and then we'd have to find something to do. So we started going to like crazy golf courses, but the family crazy golf courses, not what we built. And then like bowling alleys and all these types of things. And we got really competitive with it. So then we were going to find viewings of venues in an idea we weren't truly convinced on, just to go and play these things and get competitive with each other. We had a real excitement for it with each other, just to this competitive nature coming out of us. Anyway, we were in this treetop golf or whatever, I don't know what it was, and we were staying overnight in one of the cities, and it was about 6 p.m. It was the first time we'd been to anything on this journey, on this voyage of finding a venue. It was the first time we'd stayed over. So we went to this one in the evening about 6 p.m. and a tray of Cosmos went past while we were playing crazy golf. And we were like, people are getting pissed in here. Wow, that's boss. Imagine getting pissed here and playing it. It'd be funny, wouldn't it? And he thought nothing of it. When 2 weeks later, I went round to my uncle's house and I'm having a Sunday roast at my uncle's. And my uncle, he's one of the guys, a mentor of mine all through my life. I've seen it. So he's been a very successful guy. Listen to what he has to say, you know. And he turns around, how's the venue hunt going? And I went, yeah, it's going well. We just can't land on anything. And he went, Hayden, his son, my cousin, he went, Hayden, who was living in London at the time, Hayden went somewhere good last night. It was some crazy golf place, but just for adults. And I was like, and I went, what was that? What, just for adults? I was like, it just clicked in my head. I was like, them Cosmos going past. I was like, fucking hell, why? Anyway, I went, get Hayden on the phone now. Put Hayden on the phone. He went, yeah, we went to this place called Swingers. It's the one under the Gherkin. This had just opened, or it had only been open 6 months at the time, but it was being a big hit in London. He went. So he said everything leading up to this, in the reason why we wanted to do something a bit different, was everyone was going out back then. They were going out, and it was the same old thing: going out, waking up the next day with hangover, wish I never went out, spent loads of money, had a shit time, pissed off. That was the feelings. So we knew something was on the turn. Something had to happen, because this can't continue going, you know, the rise, the fall. This is how it goes. Rise, fall, rise, fall, rise, fall, rise, fall. It's an ebb and flow effect all the way through. So you need to know where the trend is. So we were like, something else is going to hit off here. We need to go and find it and bring a little bit more experience, get people excited. That was the whole meaning of starting this venue hunt. Anyway, he went, oh yeah, it was brilliant. He said it was cheap. You know, it only spent 60 quid. I was like, fucking hell, 60 quid, that's not cheap in our game. You know, maybe in London it might be, but it's still good money to get. And he went, oh yeah, we had a laugh. So I've got 60 quid. We've had a laugh. And then he's turned around and said, you know, we weren't there that long. We were there about 2 hours. I was like, well, you can't keep people in places for an hour at this moment in time. They're in, have a bevy, maybe two, and then they're gone. Yeah. So all the things just hit the mark. Anyway, next minute I just went straight out, ran out the door, and I went round to Kip's. I showed Kip this concept of Swingers on the phone, and he went, that's it. I said, but let's do it like Lion Tiger, like the bar we just done. And that's where Ghetto Golf came from. And literally 2 weeks after that point, we had found the venue and we were building. So you found the Cairns Brewery in Liverpool and you started building, and you had no money to start this business, which again, everyone's got ideas for businesses. They go, oh, I want to do this. But the barrier to entry is difficult because they've got no money. So what do you do? And by the way, up north, like down south, listen, it's just a different kind of kettle of fish. They will start businesses with other people's money. They'll go and take a round of investment. They'll get funding. They'll do this. Up north, just doesn't happen. It's not even in their vocabulary to even think about that. Well, you can't get it. No. People will invest in you up north, but they're not going to invest on a startup, especially two lads that like... we're bottom of the class in school. Well, Kip wasn't. Kip's a bit brighter at school, brighter than me. You know what I mean? He's not brighter than me. You know, two lads that probably, you know, you're not going to get it on day one. You're just not going to. Anyway, we did get some. What we needed was, in our heads, we thought, oh, it cost about 60 grand But this is a 12,000 square foot warehouse that we
Yeah.
needed to fully paint, fully kit out with all the bar set up, put a catering setup in, put the golf course in, put toilets in, all the rest of it. I don't know what we were thinking, but we did it. But what we needed to do is find someone who could help us on our way, and that's why a good friend of ours, we reached out to him. He had like a skip company, and he had loads of contacts, had contacts in salvage yards and stuff like that, and he really did. He stood on, and he came in as a stakeholder with that partnership, and without him, we would have struggled. But yeah, we just made it happen, and so we started the job, and we got the majority of the basics and the bones of it, and started getting paint on the walls and this, that, and the other. And then the other things, the expensive things we brought in, like air conditioning and these big price stuff, people just stood on for us, and they just trusted us, and they believed in what we were doing, because we could look at them in the eyes and just say, this is going to work, and they could feel it and they could see it, and they bought into it. So I think we thought it was going to cost 50 grand. It cost 120 grand. So we had a load of strap on, a load of credit owed out, but we paid it back within 3 months, and we were.
I was going to say, so
debt-free.
it was pretty much a success from day one.
Absolute day one, from the second we opened the doors.
What did you do in month one?
In terms of
revenue,
probably about 280 grand.
So most businesses, when they start, don't make a profit until like year 3, or they don't make any money, or, you know what I mean? Now, and most businesses, even, ones that have been going a couple of years, don't even make 280 grand in 1 year. So you've gone from having no money to start a business. You've got a car that's red with a blue door.
I bought a new car by then. No, I actually had my granddad's car then. My granddad had just died, and he gave me his car in his will. It was a Nissan Almera or something. But I remember it had a reversing camera, and I thought, wow, this is teched out for the age of car. And that's the car I was driving at that moment in time when we first opened. Yeah.
So you've gone from like having nothing, $5 in your pocket, building this adult crazy golf place that is wild. Very, very adult in some of the themes in there. And now you're earning significant amounts of cash. And it's not just month one. It just doesn't stop coming.
It keeps on getting more. So
how does that change you?
Well, I think I tried to change myself, and it was making me depressed. I obviously, first time in my life I'd really had back then I thought, oh, this is life-changing money. It wasn't life-changing money. It wasn't. It was just, I had money in my pocket, spare money. Do you know what I mean? And the money where you could go and do pretty much whatever you wanted to do. I could go to all the mad holidays you want to do, all the rest of it. And we did a bit of that, but I thought I wanted this for my whole entire life. And when I got it, I was just like, bearing in mind, I'd just come off the biggest high of my life in building that venue. This was the first time every single star in my life had aligned, and I knew what I was doing was the right thing. And I was just completely in perfect synergy with myself, and with Kip as well. So we built it, we opened it, we're knackered, but after 2 weeks of bringing yourself back together after the big build, you see the money coming in. And then we probably spent another month there just going for lunch and going shopping and doing all these things that you thought, that's what I'm going to do when I have loads of money. We're just depressed. We're massively depressed. But it was the big high, the knackered, the high again, and then the drop again. And then we were like, oh God, what is it? Why? And for me, it was just like, well, if this is, I've got what I've always wanted, and it doesn't make me happy. It was like such a depressing thing, but it wasn't. It was the fact that what I always wanted was what I'd just done. What I'd just created was the working, the feeling, the value every single day, going home at 12 o'clock at night and just getting my head down as quick as I possibly can so I can wake up quicker to get back there. That feeling had gone, and everyone else that all the team that we'd hired in was running it. You know what I mean? We'd lost our value. Yeah, we were going around thinking we're the boys and that, but it was quickly came across us that we've got to get back to doing that again. Which was great. And then we built Birdies because of that. So Birdies came out the back of, we just need to go and build something. So we started building Birdies, and Birdies developed into that massive garden stretch. And that was a beautiful thing. Like, didn't earn any money in Birdies. It didn't, but it was a fantastic time of the whole thing. And then we went on to Birmingham, Newcastle, Glasgow. And we just never stopped for 4 years. I think it was 3 years up until that dreaded COVID time.
So yeah, 2019 hits. You're in hospitality. You've got what, 3 venues at this point?
4
venues.
Well, no, we had 2 Birdies, Birmingham and Liverpool. We had Birmingham Ghetto Golf, Newcastle Ghetto Golf, Liverpool Ghetto Golf, and we were just building Glasgow Ghetto Golf.
You also had the brunch club.
And the brunch club, yeah. So
we don't need to labour on about what the pandemic did to hospitality. Everybody knows that. But what did that teach you?
Some of the best things. It taught me hard lessons, and it taught me some good lessons. So the good lessons were, it teaches you how. I was always been conscious. I've watched people all my life. I've seen fantastic brand builders, business owners rise, and I've seen them fall. And I've studied and gone, well, why? It's because when something's great, it's all top line. You just focus on the top line, because you don't have to focus on the bottom line. Do you know what I mean? Because there's more money coming in. You can cover the cracks up. But it's when something like the pandemic strikes that we had £2 million in cash in the bank in the pandemic, and coming out of the pandemic, we're £4 million in debt. So we're £6 million swing in that period of time. What that forces you to do is, you've got to then protect that bottom line for the good of the business and for the good of anyone else in the company. You've got to learn. That's true business. That is where everyone knows how to run a fantastic business. Do you know what I mean? A business that's popping off and everyone wants to go. We couldn't get people in quick enough. There was a waiting list for 5 weeks before the pandemic in every venue. Just to get in and play crazy golf. It was madness. So it's easy to run that type of business. What's hard is to run a business where you're £4 million in debt, and now every cost saving is crucial, because this business needs to survive. And we had a fantastic management team that we had brought in probably a year prior to the COVID period, and they did a fantastic job navigating through that and this, that, and the other. And then we restructured the business and et cetera, and we brought some investment in after that, because we had to, for the first time.
How did that feel? Because you're a guy who said, I love freedom. I was doing my own thing. And then you bring investment in, and everybody always asks me about investment. Would you have investors in Elle-Sera? I went, I don't want a boss. And unfortunately,
I say that to you all the time.
I see what you go through with your investors. I think
it's not the
Danny.
It's not the investors. The investors, or if you have PE or VC or whatever, the reality of it is they're a stakeholder.
Yeah.
And stakeholders have a say. Stakeholders want the best for the business, just like you do. It's just their interpretation of what the best for the business can look completely different. And look, we've got good partners that they are good. They're good people. They don't mean, they're not, there's no malice in anything that they do. There isn't. They just want the best. But sometimes it can just align differently with what you want. That's a struggle. And then that's when the freedom thing goes out the window, because, me and Kit were free as a bird together. I'd say one thing, if we disagreed on anything, we would never do it in public. We'd do it between each other, and we'd come out to common ground, and then we'd go into the fight together, do you know what I mean? And make it happen. But you can't really do that with another investment house or financial house sitting at the table.
Do you ever look back and think, oh my God, that guy with rag and bone man is now sat at a table with, big investors from London companies?
Well, yeah. So when
wanting to invest in your adult crazy golf.
So if you can imagine, COVID strikes, my whole entire company is finished. It could be finished. Yeah. That's what we're thinking at the time. 300 people, maybe 280 people at that time, all out of work. Not out of work, they were furloughed, but then, So you've got the big high, big low, and then we come out of that period and then get the investment into the company, another big high. Then straight after that, they sit us down at the table and go, look, we've got an idea what we want to do. And it was a fantastic idea. In as far as ideas go, this is brilliant and it would have worked. But again, another low comes. They say to us, look, we've got loads more businesses like yours. We're going to strap probably 2 or 3 together. We want you to be one of them. Your EBITDA value is going to be enough to we can then float on the stock market. And they passed it. They literally, we're talking about it. And I'm sat there in London. I just went, look, just how much am I getting? You know, I mean, that was what let's cut this out.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about it. Let's just, and they literally wrote a number on the piece of paper.
What was the number?
I can't say that because it didn't happen, and there's no point.
And you've never told me either. So.
No, I know. Well, the thing is I'm not going to say that because the reality of it is it didn't happen. So what's the point?
You could have written 200 million. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, but
it
was. So basically, that was the February that conversation happened. They're saying in April, that's when we're going to start the process. And April, and then just literally right before that was the Ukraine war kicked off, and the stock market just all money and liquidity came out the market, and they just went, no, fuck that, we're not investing. And then literally that was it. So then the big low again. But this is what happens when you bring people in and you talk these big, and it does take your eye away from what really matters. And what really matters is your team in the venues, the product and the experience you're kicking out, and ultimately the customers you're bringing in.
What that did allow you to do when you took a bit of investment is you got a bit of money yourself. You're taking a bit of money out of the business, and a lot of people would have gone and, you know, spunked it up the wall, bought a Bentley, maybe bought their missus a Bentley or whatever. That's not happened, by the way. And or just, you know, had some nice time with the money, but you didn't.
Well, we were going to buy a house.
Yeah,
we did buy a house in the end, but we didn't buy the house. So
Alyssa
was pregnant at the time, and we did need a house. But I just had landed the first bit of money I'd ever had. Realistically, this is real money, and I just landed the first bit of real money I'd ever had in my life. And yeah, I should have done all them things, but at the same time, here's another thing. I had stepped out of the company at the same time as getting this money. So could have been a recipe for disaster for me. I've got it in my tank to go rock and roll. Do you know what I mean?
know that.
I can do rock and roll. And the first time I had this big chunk of money and I had no job. I literally had no job. I think everyone was just expecting me to fly off the handle, including you. But at that time you were pregnant, we needed a house, but I had this money and I thought, I can't just go and spend this money on buying the house of our dreams because it's dead money in a house. And I knew that, you knew that, but you were worried about the baby. I was worried about the baby, but I wasn't prepared.
Well, at this point, I'm living in an apartment in Liverpool and you're living in Orton, and it was really inconvenient. I was like, I am not fucking driving between the two with a little newborn baby, nor should I.
No.
And that became a very, I would say on a personal level, it was a very difficult point of our relationship because we weren't living together.
It was tough. And I knew that, but I knew if I deployed this money into a house, our kids would see that money before we did. Do you know what I mean? Now, there's a right way to, and this is what I've learned through my time, is there's a right way to deal with money, and you've got to put your money to work, and then you can quickly take that money and do the things that you want, like buy a house. So this is the first time, and I needed to diversify as well. I needed to I didn't diversify very far, did I?
No.
But I needed, in my head, I was like, I'm never going back into hospitality again. So I'm going to take this, and I wanted to go into some online retail. This is pretty much the start of Elle-Sera, and like I couldn't do that. So you ended up doing that, but it was the right move anyway. I wanted to diversify. I want to take this money and get it into something, because you're like biting at me, and I would have probably just gone and spent a lot on buying the house of our dreams, and it would have been the house of our dreams. But would it have been the right thing? Yes, maybe. Could I have done better with the money for the better of our family? Yes, definitely. So That's what I did. And then, I was saying I'm not going back into hospitality. And then I ended up buying a bank in Formby, the old bank the NatWest Bank in Formby. And then I came home and told you.
And you turned it into, you were back doing what you like to do, which is
I said I'd never go back.
Restaurants.
So you actually turned around and went, you literally said you're not going to do it. But the thing is it's all I know. It's all I know. Truly, it's the only bit of success that I had. It's where I'm most confident. It's where I really feel like I can make it happen and I can get behind it. And that's the most crucial thing in business. If you're going to go into business doing anything, you've got to 100% be behind it. And that is hospitality and leisure. And so I took my money, bought a bank, and then created Emily's in Formby.
I see it all the time, right? TV chefs who buy in restaurants and then, they're closing them. They're buying stuff, they're closing them. I see all over this city people throwing loads of money in, doing a restaurant. Might be a DJ who's opening a restaurant and whatever. And what I know from looking at you is, fucking hell, hospitality's hard. But brunch club, you turned around. It was like, the black sheep of the family that nobody loved, and you gave it a bit of love, care and attention, and now it's absolutely thriving. Emily's, you really focused on, and it's doing super well. I can't even get a table. And then we've got Penelope's as well.
Yep.
So what's the secret sauce? Because how come people are getting hospitality so wrong and you seem to get it so right?
You've got to be a stakeholder. And I'm not saying, I don't know who these people are that are closing. I'm not saying anyone categorized, but I can talk from me. You've got to be a stakeholder. You've got to be a majority stakeholder. Because if you're not and you're using someone else's money, you might, as soon as the shit hits the fan, you haven't got that feeling of, I need to fucking turn this around. You haven't, you can walk away from it. And that's, I think, it can be a catalyst for many closures that happen.
I think the other thing is, for me, from where I'm looking at it, is they all look so outstanding, the venues, and you actually spend a lot of money on venue. Whereas a lot of people, they might just like really care about the food. And this is where chefs, we know one of them, they might have Michelin stars, right?
Yeah.
But they don't spend on venue, so they don't make it an experience when you go.
Well, so you could get away with this back in the day. Good food was enough. I say that a lot, and a lot of other, meetings that I've had and interviews that I've had with people. Good food was just enough. You could get away with it, and it still is the case today as well. I'm not just saying this isn't the case for everyone, because some people just are indestructible. The food is that good and the service is that good. So, but now people want so much more. The rise of social media, you've got to, that backdrop's got to look fantastic behind that person. Wherever you're taking a picture, you better make sure that backdrop is picture ready or video ready, because that's going on social media. And if it's not going on social media. If it's not going on social media, they're not marketing it for you. If they're not marketing for you, if your business isn't being marketed, someone else's is, and they're the ones who people are going to book. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, and then food and then service, it's all got to be as good as each other. And your team's got to be good culture throughout the team. I mean, don't get me wrong, we've had our challenges. We really have had challenges in service and starting new venues, because you haven't got that professionalism anymore in this sector as much. There is still professionals in the sector, but it's not, you're working with kids now, straight from real green in terms of work. And the kids today are different to the kids when I was 15. I had dealt with bailiffs my whole life. I'm not saying kids don't do that now. I'm just saying when I was 15, I dealt with bailiffs my whole life. It was speak when you're spoken to. It was do as I say. All of these fundamentals, and it's strict. And I lived in a strict world. I think everyone did back then. It's just the reins have been loosened now, and kids are still great. They're fantastic, and we've got great kids in our businesses that we're really putting time into. You just have to put more training into them. It takes a lot longer to get people to where they need to be, but that's fine. You just need to understand it.
We've nearly come to the end of the podcast. So what's next for you? What's next for Golf Fang? What's next for Rebel Restaurants? What's next for you personally?
we're in a recession, whether we like it or not. We're in one. Whether the market says we are or we're not, we're in one. We're in an inflationary recession, or we're in a recession, whatever you want to call it. Money's tight. Let's call it that. So when money's tight, you've got to fight. You need to fight in your business to make the experience better, make the product better, make the team better. And you need to fight through the noise, because there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of competition in whether it be socialization or hospitality. There's a lot of noise out there. You've got to fight through that. So it's working on the marketing elements, the sales elements, but in a nice way, not this generic, like, fundamental way of doing marketing. So and sales, coming about it a bit differently in the same context, gelling the team around you. In all of my businesses, this is the focus: gelling the team and bringing them in on the journey, making them. This is a level of training. This is what I do. So, if I want something doing, I'll bring people in. I'll get stuck in first, and then I'll show them the way, and then I'll teach them that this is the new way. This is how we're going to be different from everyone else, and this is how people are going to see us before they see everyone else. That's the focus. Just got to deliver it.
Well, fabulous. How was your first podcast experience?
Fantastic. I should do more of these. So if
well,
you want it, if
thank
anyone
you
wants
finally
me on
for
this.
coming on. No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right. I hope everybody enjoyed that. What's for tea?
Salt and pepper chicken.
Thank you very much. Thanks,
you. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Cheers.